All right, hello, class of 2020. So my name is Kathleen. I graduated in 2011, so about 9 years ago. And I'm so honored to be here today on this incredible day for you all. I really hope I'm able to give the message justice over Zoom. So I think that when I graduated, this year's graduating class was the age that I was when I started attending Balmoral Hall. So I thought we could travel back to my first day, September 2002. My grade 4 teacher, Mrs. Young, who I will never forget, on the first day of school, she asked us to draw the map of Canada. And after 20 minutes, she asked us to hand in what we had. And I panicked as I was finishing up Baffin Island and labeling Iqaluit, and Newfoundland didn't look quite right, and most of the kids had drawn maple leaves and polar bears, and others had drawn out lines with a dot labeled Winnipeg in the center. And I remember her flipping through them all and then getting to my map and looking kind of shocked and holding it up to the class and going, "This is the map of Canada." And I remember my heart dropping, and in one split second, I lost pretty much all of my new girl cool factor. And it got better. Later that fall, I sewed myself one of the ugliest hat and scarf combos you have ever seen. Like big, hairy, scruffy brown wool, holes in it, pom-poms. Bless my mother for literally never judging me, because I was so proud that I wore it every single day. And Mrs. Young told me she loved it, so I made her a matching set for Christmas. And then we both wore them every day. I played on every sports team, but I was pretty much the worst player on every team. I did every single musical, even though I was too shy to ever play any serious roles. My voice would just kind of like crack in the middle of my auditions. But I do remember for the musical Cats, I was McCavity. And when the costume designer was measuring me, I think I might have been dancing around or something. And I remember him saying, "Katie Eva, you really dance to the beat of your own drum, don't you?" And I remember thinking, oh crap, I must need to practice my choreography a bit more. But I eventually realized that's not what he meant. Although that's also probably what he meant. So needless to say, I was a bit of a geek, and a little bit eccentric for sure. But did I see myself as a leader? Honestly, no. And not when I was elected school captain, and not when I brought juice boxes to parties, and not when I took every single advanced placement school or class the school had just because I was interested in them. And I've thought a lot about why, I didn't see myself as a leader. But what is a leader anyway? Throughout history, they have been generals, kings, presidents, and more recently, founders and CEOs. Ambitious, confident, decisive, powerful, strong, stoic risk takers, right? Hold that thought. I'm going to steal a story from a memorable commencement address I read once. This is Water by David Foster Wallace. And my version goes like this. So 2 graduating Balmoral Hall fishies are swimming along, and they pass a graduate from almost 10 years ago. Still cannot believe it has really been that long. And she looks at them and says, "Hey girls, how's the water?" And the fishies keep swimming until one of them looks at the other and says, "What is water?" Now, people have different interpretations for what water is in this story, but the way I understood it is it's the stuff you don't notice that is sometimes invisible about your culture and your environment, that shapes and changes the way you see yourself and the way you see the world. And this water is different for everyone, but for me, it went a bit like this. So I grew up with a stay-at-home mom, and at BH, a lot of my friends did. Some of the people I respected the most in the world were brilliant, educated, career-oriented women who gave that up to raise a family. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I feel so grateful for the childhood I had with my mother. Many of you will choose to have a career earlier on, but eventually dedicate your lives to raising a family. And this is a great choice, if it's the right choice for you. But I don't really see it as a choice. Without even noticing, I think I tried to think about the kind of career I could have that also worked with having a family, which in retrospect felt a bit like trying to force a dancing donkey inside of a mitt. Um, Although I was encouraged that women could be anything and that I should think about my career, at the same time, I couldn't ignore the messages I was receiving about the value of women and therefore myself in society. Instagram feeds full of photoshopped women that all of us validate. The way we talk about how girls look, even as women, as if that should mean anything about who they are. How women are told they're too emotional or too naive for business. I think the first time I was told that, I was 12. Why do we raise women to be nice and follow the rules and tell boys the opposite isn't only okay, it's a good thing? What about finding a partner or getting married? Why is there so much pressure for women, as if it somehow puts our value into question if we either choose to delay it or, God forbid, don't choose it at all? And I grew up reading almanacs and science magazines, interested in pretty much everything, building random businesses in the back of math class, and my mom couldn't teach me manners for the life of her. And I mean, Ms. Wilkes's story of first meeting me and me walking in front of her teaching and knocking all over all of her books doesn't exactly scream polite. And that's because it wasn't polite. Like, I wasn't polite. So as much as I was already defying many of the norms for young girls, I didn't feel confident that I was meant to defy them completely. And I'll put her quotes, man's world I wanted to fit into, one of my characteristics didn't really belong. And that was my empathy. It made me feel a lot of shame, as if it was somehow a weakness, as if caring about others would somehow hinder my success. But like, I cared a lot. Now I'm not afraid of it, and I know it is my biggest strength. But the thing I wish I knew then, and I want you to know now, is that there is no right way to be a woman. To many women I have met, finding our truest selves is not a question of ambition versus empathy, but finding a way to choose both. And I went through a rough patch after I graduated. I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It was hard to find motivation, and I struggled with my mental health. But what I ended up discovering was my empathy is my ambition. And it is what drives me to build organizations that solve real problems and remove the pain that people experience. So the truth is, we've got to find a way to redefine leadership. The characteristics we associate with leadership that I mentioned before: ambition, decisiveness, power, stoicism. Researchers now recognize these mean less about leadership and more about the people who have held those positions so far in history, who most of the time just so happen to be men. So no wonder it was so hard for me to see myself as both a woman and a leader when I had qualities of both, and no wonder it's so hard for so many others. Canada has still never had a formally elected female prime minister. And the reasons for this have nothing to do with the competence of women, as we can see clearly by looking at countries like New Zealand and Germany's fantastic responses to COVID-19. But instead, everything to do with the water that has shaped our understanding of women, our understanding of leadership, and our understanding of ourselves. Women shouldn't need to fit the mold that has existed. And we don't need to create space for more female kinds of leadership, because female kinds of leadership are a little bit bogus. That's just leadership. You don't need to be bossy. You don't need to be ambitious for ambition's sake. And I'm not saying you can't be. I can definitely be bossy. Just ask my little brother. But what I'm saying is that if you aren't, that's okay. That's not what being a leader should be. It's not what being a leader should require, and it's not what the world needs more of. You don't need to be more like men. You just need to be more like yourself. So, to the Balmoral Hall costume designer who told me I dance to the beat of my own drum, I will respond 12 years later with this quote from Henry David Thoreau. If a man, and here I will insert, or a woman, does not keep pace with his companions. Perhaps it is because they hear a different drummer. Let them step to the music they hear, however measured or far away. So now, graduates of 2020, it's your turn as women, but most importantly as yourself, to discover the beat of your own drum, to find the courage to dance to it, and to change the world. The water is waiting. Thank you.